Hello League community, long time no see. More on that later though. This is the Rift PhD and let's get right into Pyke, the Blood Harbor Ripper. First off, let's take a look at Pyke's meta, as there's a decent amount of controversy right now over whether or not he's actually a support. A lot of people are putting some big fat air quotes around that. But really what we want to take a look at here is like what makes a good support and what qualities Pyke does or doesn't have that will make him one, or make him a bad support. Typically, what classifies as a good support is, do they have decent utility, is it able to place a ward, and can it help the ADC snowball? And the answer to all of these questions is yes, although it may not be as traditional for Pyke. He has some pretty cool tools that make him a pretty useful champion to have in the bot lane and on your team. That being said, however, if you already have an assassin on your team or a similar type champion like a skirmisher, do not pick Pyke, it's not going to work. You'd be so much better off just taking something as aggressive with crowd control instead of damage, which kind of brings us to Pyke's most close comparison, Rakan. Another super aggro champion who Pyke sacrifices the CC, which he still has a bit, but he instead wants more damage. Now before we get into abilities and tips and tricks, let's take a look at the two things that make Pyke really dangerous. This doesn't necessarily mean he's super good, it just means he's kind of on a fine line where if he's strong, he's going to be ridiculous or have the potential to be, and if he's weak, he's going to be pretty useless. So it's going to be a fine line for the balanced team, which they're not very good with. Banner of Command! The first thing that makes Pyke pretty scary as a champion concept is how he can regenerate such a massive amount of health. If we've learned anything from Echo or Tom Kench or Dr. Mundo, it's that something with a decent amount of health, a lot of resistances, and that much health regeneration is a real pain in the ass to kill. And Pyke's ability to get some attack damage off of various items that'll give him these resistances and buff his team, like a Knight's Vow for his ADC, make him pretty scary. Being both an assassin and really hard to kill is like pretty unfair. It's the words tank and assassin should never be put next to each other, for the same reason that a real tank and a real assassin should never put next to each other. That shit has more potential for danger than a high school dance teacher at the graduation party. Like, let's see Castro try and survive a motherfucking assassin in a tank. Good luck with that, buddy. I love your beard. Next up is Pyke's ability to be able to print money like the United States of fucking America. Like, it is insane how much money he pumps out on every kill. Every time he gets a kill with his ultimate, he is putting out a pretty good chunk of gold into your team, and gold wins games. I've said this 100 times because, you know, especially pro play, I imagine this will come up a lot in pro play, and even in lower levels, where like the skill margins are a little bit lower, because honestly, if someone has 16 kills or something like that, or 16 kills worth of gold, it doesn't matter if you're better than them. Because if Pyke can give his team enough gold and, you know, take some of that for himself and get powerful as well, it's just gonna snowball hard, which is one of the conditions to make a good support. So now let's finally get into how we should be playing Pyke. Pyke's first item should 99 times out of 100 be Duskblade, because it gives him that lethality and damage he needs to be a relevant assassin come when he hits level 6, so he can actually start to roll some kills out. And then when he builds some tankier items later, which I recommend because with that health regen and the actual attack damage you get off of building health, it's really powerful. So stuff like Knight's Vow and that kind of stuff is really good, and I'll talk more about builds later. But the Duskblade allows Pyke to be able to clear wards really effectively with a red sweeper, and pink wards because he should be buying a lot of those as support, which not only is that super powerful because he's denying vision, but he's also an assassin. So while he's clearing out these places of wards and stuff like that, he's also applying pressure, which is a really dangerous thing for the enemy team. Although he's not super independent and won't be able to kill people on his own very often, the amount of like kill potential he has if he's with one other member of his team is astro-fucking-nomical. Running into a Pyke in the jungle is like running into a Thresh and an Evelynn combined into one. It's like they hate fucked or something, and that explains why he's so edgy. Good God, I'm gonna need to start putting viewer discretion warnings on my videos. Anyway, let's get into Pyke in lane. I lied to you. We're gonna look at runes first, because you probably want to know what runes you're taking before you start thinking of how you're gonna use them in lane. So, you're gonna go down Domination, a pretty typical assassin page for runes. You want Electrocute for that burst damage, and Sudden Impact also for that burst damage. You're only building one lethality item on Pyke for the most part, so Sudden Impact with the extra 10 lethality is actually pretty significant. You can build 2 lethality items, like a Yomu's after your Duskblade. I do not recommend it. I recommend going straight into utility tank items. Pyke does so much better as a utility tank than he does as a full-on assassin, because your assassination's built in your kit already, and these runes will help you do that. Zombie ward's important because Pyke's ward game is on point. This really brings him up to one of the top tier supports for getting jungle control in terms of the enemy wards and vision and stuff like that. And then Ultimate Hunter is a good choice because you want Pyke's ultimate to be up pretty much all the time so you can be spreading the wealth amongst your team. It's a pretty good option, but I also like Relentless Hunter because that helps you move around the map with Moby Boots and the movement speed % boost from your W. In terms of the secondary path, this is a little bit of an oddball pick, but Sorcery with that extra attack damage is kind of nice. And then Absolute Focus, because when you're regenerating all of that health from Pyke's passive, chances are the majority of the time you're above 70% health, getting you that really hefty chunk of attack damage, which is really useful. And again, you're not building a ton of damage with this build, so I do highly recommend that. Nimbus Cloak is another really good option. I'm still testing this one out, but that 100% move speed after popping someone with your ultimate is really helpful for chasing down other people on their team who are low and getting those resets. Especially because your cooldown reduction from your items and stuff like that you buy is going to reduce the cooldown on this to about 30 seconds. Pyke has a few options for itemization, but the one I definitely recommend is always Duskblade Rush for your ward control and your lethality, followed by tanky utility. The regeneration is just too good to pass up on those resistances, and getting that health from some of these items actually buffs your damage anyway, which is great. So that makes Pyke somewhat of a tank assassin, which, as we've discussed earlier, is fucking bonkers. So from this point, you have a few options. If you want to keep your ADC alive and get a more supportive tanky item, you can get a Knight's Vow, or if you're feeling balls to the wall, you can get a Dead Man's Plate, make you even better at chasing people down and slamming them in the face coming out of invisibility. It's actually a really powerful item on Pyke. I've really been enjoying it. Then if they have more magic damage, consider getting a Locket of the Iron Solari, because the resistances on that are just fantastic, and the active is even better, I'd argue. And then you're really hard to kill. That shield is super powerful as well, because I believe it scales with bonus health, and then Pyke just gets a lot of that, although he doesn't make use of it because of his passive. It makes that shield really beefy, making him hard to kill. Alternatively, if you want to go more aggro, you have the option, well, not aggro, but tankier and less helping your team. Spirit Visage is a good option because it gives a ton of magic resist, extra damage for you because of that health conversion, and then it makes you regenerate even more health off of that W, making you harder to kill. I believe it's something like with the 30%, at level 17, you're regenerating 97% of damage taken with that invisibility, or just dropping off of enemy vision, which is great. And then you get the Duskblade proc off of that, which is an extra like almost 200 physical damage. It's absolutely bonkers. Lastly, if you have the gold for something like it, or if you're getting focused for whatever reason, and your W is not enough to keep you alive, and you can't get out with your E, get a Guardian Angel, because the resistances are great, the damage is great, and the resurrection is great, and Pyke can E away after coming out of Guardian Angel, and stun anyone who is sitting on top of him waiting to kill him, then pop invisibility and disappear into the night. Anyway, now that we know what we're using in lane and team fights, let's actually get into lane and team fights. Alright, so let's talk about Pyke's laning phase. It's not that pretty, but it's not ugly either. We're talking like a solid 6.5 out of 10 here. But like any character with an edgy backstory, Pyke's gonna get abused here and there. And this is because of his short range and low survivability early in the game. Because he doesn't get tanky until he gets some of those utility items, and he's not getting much health from a relic shield or anything like that, he kind of gets tossed around by any damage that the other team might have. So you have to be really wary of that. And when you're getting into trades, you want to be aware to get out of them and regenerate some of your health with his passive, be it in a bush or using your W. So Pyke has two main trades in the bot lane during laning phase. His first is to use his W to approach, and then you want to E through an enemy and then Q them immediately so they get stuck in the E. So let's break this first combo into a play-by-play. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to move into the bush to see if we're invisible in it. So you see our passive go off, so that means the enemy can't see us right now, and we know that because we're regenerating health. So now what we can do is I'm going to pop my W and move up in invisibility because I know they can't see me. So knowing that Ashe can't see me until now, when that little purple eye shows up above her head and the exclamation mark above mine, that means she can see me. So now I want to E right through her and land that Q instantly. So now it doesn't even matter that I sent it in a completely wrong direction because I'm right on top of her, it hits. So then that guarantees the stun. So now I made a mistake here. I auto-attacked her in the stun rather than just straight up ulting her. So that means she has time to flash away. What I should have done here is I should have just R'd her through the stun and guaranteed that kill, or if I wanted to play for the flash, save my ultimate until she'd used it and then kill her anyway. So Pyke's second main trading tool is his hook. So landing it's a little bit, weird because it's a fixed distance pull, which you don't see very often. So you need to be aware of how far they are away from you when you pull them to be prepared to follow up with your E. Because the nice thing about Pyke's pull is after the pull lands, after they're on like the closer end to you, they're slowed also. So that means if you E through them, they're almost guaranteed going to get hit by that stun, and then you can dip out however you need to and regenerate health and come back in with your W. This is a really good one to come back in on that second run and go for an Ignite ultimate finisher, especially if you have Duskblade, because you get some extra damage and slow in that too. Really good kill potential. Let's take a look at that combo piece by piece. Alright, so here I'm just going to step into the bush and see if Leona respects my zone. Hint, she doesn't. So I'm just going to walk up to her and try and land that Q. So because she's at a pretty close range here, as soon as I see that hook hit, I'm dashing instantly right towards where she's going to come. And then with the slow, she's got no choice but to take the stun and is now in a really bad spot. But she makes a really smart decision there to E onto me and then flash out, which lets her survive. So moving on to the team fight section of this video, we're going to look at a combo that works both in lane and in team fights. So Graves gets caught by Leona E here, so he's in trouble. We want to step in and see if we can help. But after that, Leona ult comes out. He's deader than my first pet. Rest in peace, Doug. So immediately we got to turn tail and start running here, otherwise that Leona and Mundo are going to run us down. And our backline is really in danger here. So what we want to do, we step up, land the Q on them, and then immediately E out. So this forces them that because they're so slow, either they try and chase us and get stunned or run away and don't. So when they take this stun, Zed turns around and jumps in with his ultimate, and I follow up with mine, able to clear out an entire team fight that would have otherwise been a huge L. So now with a good hook, we can secure the Leona and look at pushing in to take 2 towers. Once the laning phase ends and you're starting to move into the grouping teamfight phase, that's when you really want to start locking down the map. Once you got that Duskblade and your sweeper and some pink wards, you want to just start moving around the map, seeing what's going on, taking out wards when you can, and applying that pressure. Try and stay close to where your teammates are though, because you're not entirely self-sufficient. Try and coordinate with your team to sit in spots where you think the enemies are going to go through, and keep track of their jungler because that's important, and try and lock down those picks and stuff like that and move to take objectives. In terms of fights, like, team fights where everyone's all together beating each other's heads in, you want to try and stick around kind of on the edges and land any Qs or be it a hook or a slow. Probably you want to prioritize hooks though. And, contribute what you can to damage, and then be ready to E through enemies and W out if you have to. That way you can use your W to regenerate some health and come back into the fight and sit a little bit farther back. The biggest thing is you want to make sure you have enough health so that once people on the enemy team start getting low enough, you can just start popping off and getting those executes and printing money. So before we close out here, let's take a look at some of Pyke's other simpler combos that he can use in specific situations that get him out of some sticky situations and get his enemies into some as well. Charging up a hook and pulling someone through you and then immediately Eing afterwards will stun them, putting a lot of distance between the two of you, allowing you to W off and get away from most flanks. Pyke can use his E to get over walls and stun someone on the other side pretty well at the same time. You gotta be careful though, because this is one of Pyke's good tools for getting away over walls, so once you go over, you're not coming back. People for whatever reason don't typically expect Pyke to be able to come over the wall that fast at them, so you can get some pretty decent engages with that. Last up, we're going to take a look at a longer clip here that kind of encompasses a few of these things and how Pyke's pull over a wall can be super lethal. The main reason the pull over the wall is so lethal is because after the pull finishes, they're slowed, meaning that they're just kind of stuck there for a little while and can't do a whole lot unless they have flash to go back over. So you can see we E'd over that wall there to get to the Lux, which set up a kill there. We can push the game in after that. And Pyke can hold down this Irelia for a pretty good amount of time all on his own, dodging the ult with a stopwatch and then pulling over the corner here to ensure that she's not going anywhere. Hey guys, that concludes the Ultimate Pyke Guide. I hope that was useful and maybe it'll bring you guys some wins in the future. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and a subscribe, and I'll be putting out more content on the regular. So if you guys want to leave a comment in the comment section below on what champion you guys want next, I'll do my best to learn any champion for you guys if it's popular. Just I'm best at 80 season sports though, so ones for mid laners, top laners, etc. will take a bit longer. Sorry Jungle, you kind of got left out there. Anyway, so when new champions and reveals and updates come out, I'll be putting out more content, and any major meta changes and stuff like that, come check out my channel for new stuff. And I just want to say a quick thank you to the people who are coming back from when I used to make videos months ago. It really means a lot to come back and not have to start fresh and have you guys still come to check out my videos. So thank you very much. Anyway, check out this highlight clip with me and Phill Kerry, and enjoy.